let's read through some detransition horror stories, shall we? These are harrowing.
Carl,
right?
have I done something wrong?
Yes.
Is this a punishment?
Yes, it is. These are genuinely harrowing stories, and we laugh because otherwise you're going to be like, "Oh wow, I'm so glad that's not me." Right?
Oh, I mean, even if I do laugh just out of cope, to be perfectly honest,
Yeah.
I am ridiculously glad that none of these are me.
It is very much a case of there, but for the grace of God, go I. And I'm saying that as an atheist. But anyway, before we start, you can go over to lotus.com and put this in context by listening to our book club on Abigail Shrier's book, Irreversible Damage, where I forced Harry to read this book.
Well, I already had it. I just hadn't got round to reading it, and it was like, I probably
But
should.
I did insist.
Yeah. And then you made me look at all the detrans stories as well.
Yes, because,
It's important to know.
It's Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah, as awful as it is, as messed up as it is, you do need to know this stuff, because this is what's affecting your children nowadays. So many people are sending their kids off to school not realizing that this is the ideology that they are getting indoctrinated into. And it's only by the good grace of people like Ron DeSantis and accounts like Libs of TikTok and authors like Abigail Shrier that this has come to light.
Yeah, there is another side to the narrative of what it is to be transgender that you do not hear in the mainstream. And it's very serious. And as Abigail Shrier points out, it's not something you can just turn on or off. It's irreversible. So let's get into it. So as I said, I went to RD Trans, which is honestly, I think it's going to get censored because what it is, and it is just people who have transitioned and have gone like, right, this isn't for me. And this is actually something I oftentimes kind of regret. And I just want to share my thoughts, right? So don't go to the subreddit, don't bombard them. This is just, if you're not a trans person who's detransitioning, don't go and, cause them trouble or anything like that. Because that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm actually incredibly sympathetic to a lot of these people because they didn't know what they were doing and there's no way that they can go back. Right. And you can see that ideology is not helping any of this. Right. So this is one person. They say, one of the hardest things for me to cope with has been giving up on the man I wanted to be. My idealized appearance has always been male, a guy with long hair and a soul patch, or a guy with messy hair and stubble, or a Jesus lookalike. I just feel jealous of men's appearances and characteristics. I feel jealous that they get to be socially privileged and look how I want to look. Who put it in your mind that men are socially privileged?
Feminists and gender ideologues.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, I don't think it's particularly true. And this is what Mega Verma was talking about the other day. It's like, she doesn't think it's socially true. It's maybe if you're a very attractive person, you would be socially privileged, but that's just universal for very attractive people.
It's even got a name, pretty privilege, which is one of the few privileges I would acknowledge as being probably pretty true for the most part.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the next one, right? This is one where people are just saying, look, they were just telling me what I wanted to hear, right? And so they say they identified as transmasculine for 5 years and then stopped testosterone 1 year ago. I told my mum I'm thinking about changing my gender marker back to female, and how many people in my environment still have trouble seeing me as a man and accepting my transition. The same people who are explicitly so supportive to my face about my transition, how they could tell I was doing better and this was the right path for me, how much of a man I was and how masculine I was, to the point it was even making me uncomfortable. And now it turns out they didn't see me that way at all. I feel as though I've dragged everyone through in a sort of mass delusion that made them act that way. I don't like to think I forced them to do this gender-affirming ass-kissing, but then again, maybe I did. I guess I'm mostly scared that I did. I'm scared I've forced everyone to see me a certain way, and now I might detransition. It was all for nothing. I don't want people to tell me what they think I want to hear anymore. I want them to be honest, even if it hurts or offends me. Now, I've taken a couple of clips out of this one because it's a bit longer, but you can see the environment these people are operating in.
This is such a common story that I've seen with so many of these detransition stories where they will drag their family through it. They will force their family into the position where they feel like they have to affirm you, or else they are some kind of bigot, or else they are some kind of oppressor. And the thing is, a lot of these parents, they will be Gen Xers, like in your generation, and they were the sorts of people who were raised from a very young age to try and be anti-bullying, anti-racist of a different kind, to generally be polite and good people. And you are forcing this onto them. And by their own standards, they think, okay, I'm going to have to go along with it then because I don't want to be a bad person.
And the Generation X is a generally quite liberal generation. So they're not sat there like, they're not getting out their Bibles and going, well, God says, or anything like that. and you can see how like the ideology is dragging people along, and I can't imagine that the social pressure is helping, which is in fact exactly what this one's talking about. The trans community is not exactly helping, calling this person an evil protector of children, right? She says, so apparently I am, quote, unironically evil and should sterilize myself to prevent my intellectually deficient genes from passing on to the next generation. Why? Because I don't want children to make permanent decisions based off temporary feelings of dissatisfaction within themselves. So sorry for not wanting more kids to go down the path I did and realize too late that they've made a horrible mistake and have to undo it all. Honestly, I'm sick of this S. As soon as people find out that you're a detransitioner, it's like a black mark against your name. I'm transphobic. I'm a TERF. I created this problem myself. I never had dysphoria to begin with, so it's my fault. None of these people know my story, yet they blame me for it. I knew this would happen. People don't like it when you start to reveal a side of either themselves or their community that sheds a negative light on their beliefs. Too bad. I spent 6 years in the trans community for better or worse, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be excommunicated because people are scared of what I have to say, and that's their problem. That's terrible.
That is terrible. That's another thing. These
community pressure.
These people get abandoned the moment they say, "Hold up, I might have made a mistake here," and that is one of the things that they got thrown at them a lot of the times. Is you must have never had dysphoria to begin with, which is not true. The problem is that the dysphoria in itself is such a nebulous category that can be caused by so many variables. Like it could be issues with your childhood, issues with your parents, issues just generally with hormones and depression, especially given that a lot of this are women, young girls going through what is oftentimes considered to be the hardest time in a young girl's life when they're going through puberty, and it can cause dysphoria. But the problem is that most people don't think, is this the best way to solve my dysphoria? They just go, this is what people have told me, so I best transition. It's like, I think that's why I kind of like was inoculated against a lot of this stuff when it started to happen, and I started to see it for what it was, because I lived through the period, I don't know how it was when you were growing up, where so many, well, obviously not this stuff, but where so many girls were harming themselves, self-harming. And as terrible as self-harming is, at the very least, all you're left with are scars of knife marks. You're not actively removing your breasts.
Well, let's go on to the next one. This person says they couldn't give informed consent. I started transitioning when I was 16. They carry on. By the time I realized I was more depressed than ever, I'd already had a mastectomy and 2 years on testosterone. I was thrust into adulthood broken. I went through the detransition process. I quit testosterone for over 5 years, and here at 27, I sleep 14 hours a day, my hair falls out, and I can't stop gaining weight. I decided I had enough and went to get a full medical workup done. Sorry, I thought you wanted to interrupt there.
No.
No, it's okay. It's just, my lab work revealed I had almost no female hormones. I will never have children. I have PCOS. I don't know what that is. Polycystic ovaries. Yeah, thanks, John. I have high cholesterol. I have cysts all over my ovaries. My PCP had to submit my results to a specialist because they were so unusually terrible. I will be on weekly injections, diabetes medication, and who knows what else for the rest of my life. And at this point, I have no idea if I will ever get back to feeling energetic, out of pain, and a little bit normal. When I signed those papers, I was not informed of any of this. I was a child allowed to destroy my body permanently under the assurance that I can always change my mind, and that it was a beautiful, harmless process. The informed consent model is a lie, because we are just guinea pigs to a medical experiment. My life is permanently afflicted. I was not informed. And they end this by saying, I only wish my experience could mean anything, but all it will ever be is internet harassment and an empty feeling. The medical community can't listen, and the trans community won't.
It's just awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And once again, the whole point of this is that when you become a patient, when you transition, you are, for the rest of your life, a patient.
Yes.
There's no moving back from it.
The next one is things not turning out as expected. This is a very short one. I have a body covered in thick hair now. This is a woman, I assume, who decided to take testosterone. My face, stomach, my arms, my legs, everywhere. Even when I shave my face, it's still noticeable. My voice is at the lowest pitch on voice analyzers. It's a man's voice. My chest is flat forever. My genitals are changed. I can't even bring myself to type out how, but we all know. I want to die, and then I think about everything. It feels like there is no escape, just effed up. Let's go on to the next one. I miss my breasts so much. I sit in bed crying because I just miss my breasts so much. I got top surgery when I was 18. Now I'm 27.
I mean, legally an adult, legally you
Yeah,
can
but
make your own decisions, but when you're 18, you're still a stupid kid.
yeah, legally an absolute fool at 18. I mean, Christ, like I just can't even
Like,
imagine.
I look back at when I was 18 and cringe at some of the things that I did and
I
said, but at
cringe about the
least,
clothes I was wearing, though. At least, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
and at least I can look back and go, well, that helped me to become the person I am right now. Whereas
yeah,
this is not what this
yeah.
person has wanted in the long run.
Even if I get implants, they won't actually be mine. I want mine back. Not only were they mine, but they were great looking. I will never have them back. Never. I never thought that this would happen to me. I was always 1,000,000% sure I made the right decision. But in the past couple of years, I've finally realized, and it's so effing hard to comprehend this and accept it. I'm going through a mourning period right now over my old body. I miss it so much. I look at girls nowadays, any girl at all, and I'm completely jealous. At least they have their natural body. I feel like an imposter, and I can't even claim that I'm actually a girl, even though I am. My voice is effed. I have no boobs. I'm constantly worried about passing as female, even though I am one. I feel so much regret, and it's eating me alive. It's just harrowing. Sorry that you've tuned into this, folks, but I just,
This is really important stuff to know.
yeah. You're not going to get these like just on CNN or like The Guardian or The Independent or something.
As far as I'm aware, the only people who are really amplifying these voices are a few people. Like Tucker Carlson has recently been doing some good work in amplifying these detrans voices. And other than that, I can only really think of Blair White as somebody who's spoken to these people and told their stories. So
the next one is sexual development has been blocked by their trans identity, not only physically, such as messing with my hormones when I was in the middle of puberty, stunting my health and sexual development, but also mentally stunting it, where I don't form a proper sexual identity or sense of sexual self, let alone in general, and it becomes twisted and dark. So they say, I was approaching sexuality at the age of 12, which is way too young, but whatever, as if I was a boy, and this is a female. Any sexual interaction I had through my entire teenage years to a year ago when I was 23 was on the basis that I was a male, and it meant that I had to have sex like a male, but I could never live up to the expectations, so it caused me immense grief. I never learned my body. Any sexual interaction I had would involve very little contact with my physical body, and I would project this image of masculinity that wasn't even me at all. It just makes me sad, and now my sex drive is absolutely gone. Was it ever truly there? I have zero desires, and any time I encounter sexuality, I'm confused. It makes me uncomfortable. My body feels so strange. It's what's been done to it hurts, and it's so insane to me that we encourage children to think that they're something they're not, and it totally messes with their head. I mean, I was convinced I was supposed to be a boy, and that was really my problem. Unbelievable. I feel robbed of my body and robbed of being able to have a normal developmental period, socially, psychologically, and sexually. I feel robbed of my organs. I was put on this path at such a young age. This messes with children more than doctors realize. I'm grieving deeply for myself and for all of those other young girls who don't see it yet.
And it sounds like they're going through a lawsuit at the moment, presumably against the clinic that did it. So whoever this is, good luck on your lawsuit, because I think that's one of the main ways that people will be able to expose this as well, is winning massive lawsuits against these places.
I don't see any other options. The next one is about lower surgery woes, which, I mean, you can imagine how this is going to go. What are you supposed to do when you've gone the whole way? It's been 2 years since I realized, and I regretted transition, and I still just feel lost. I had metoidioplasty, with urethral lengthening and a vaginectomy too. I had my testicular implants removed, thank F, because they were so uncomfortable, but that's it. I feel desexed completely. I look down and I'm faced with the stupidest decision I ever made. I don't know if I can make peace with it, even if I've no choice. I'm so ashamed as well. A lot of what I call lower dysphoria was actually a direct result of me not taking proper care of myself, and I'll call it self-harm. I won't go into details. I was 19 when I started lower surgery. I was only 20 when I had the second, which removed everything. I hadn't even lived properly yet. I transitioned at 14 and locked myself up in my room. I went into surgery like it was nothing, and it's been downhill since. I want it undone, but I don't know if any sort of reconstruction would be possible or funded. I'm in the UK. It feels like I'm stuck in some horrible, hellish pit that I can't get out of. I want to scream and cry. I want someone to comfort me, but honestly, what does any of that do? I could talk about this forever and nothing will change, so why bother? Yeah, I'm still a woman, but there's only so much comfort to be found in those affirmations. I'm a human being, of course, so I care what I look like. And of course, I'm devastated that I'm flat-chested, balding, covered in hair with a distinct lack of genitals. What a goddamn awful position to be stuck in. Like, that is just the worst, isn't it?
It's just horrible.
It's horrible.
Awful.
It's so horrible. I hate being in this body. I don't know what to do. Everything I wish I had is something I did have until I rid myself of it.
The fact that this has been allowed to happen, that it's got to this point within society where there are people who are saying, ignore this and just go along with the narrative, go along with what you're being told by the mainstream media and by the mainstream institutions.
It's so irresponsible.
Well, it's criminal.
It's
criminal.
So awful.
This is the great crime of our generation, as I see it.
This is going to age badly. The last one that I was going to go through is just one called Why Did Nobody Stop Me? Which is a great question, right? So they say it's effed up that I was given antipsychotics after HRT and not before. I had to see 2 therapists to get letters. Not one of them noticed that I was loudly, visibly traumatized and manic and falling apart. The doctors, this is a male to female, by the way. The doctors, my family, my friends, the therapist, not a single person took me aside and asked if I really was ready. I know who I was then, and I know that I would have taken that to heart. The moment I met someone who also had bipolar disorder and told them that I was manic and went straight to treatment, it was just 2 years after HRT, 2 years too late. I was coming out of an abusive relationship and unpacking child sexual, something else, CSA.
Assault, I'd assume.
Assault, yeah. And was on the tail end of a mixed episode and just dropped out of college. How the F was I allowed to irreversibly change every single aspect of my body and life? Why was I allowed to castrate myself? I should have been committed, not castrated. The only friends left in my life after everything fell apart were trans and naturally saw my pain around my identity and passed through their framework. I love them, but they should have given space for alternatives. They should have seen how effed I was. I was having hallucinations and delusions for F's sake. They knew about them and said nothing when I said I was a woman. Guess my genes are effed if they made a brain like this, so it's probably best that I'm kept out of the gene pool. It's my fault that I kept on their path after stabilizing, that I let the momentum ride. I'll own that, but I'm still so angry. Informed consent requires the person is able to consent, which should require confirmation of sanity. Everyone failed me in their efforts to save me, and I'll never recover from that damage. It's just the most harrowing stories on the subreddit. Like I said, don't go over there and give them any hassle or anything like that. Just be aware. Just be aware.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the interview Carl did with David Rearboy. And if you want to follow Carl and see what else he's putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Carl Benjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.